talking about the markets, but according to Balaji, we're gonna see Bitcoin at $1 million in the next 90 days. So you'll only have to go to sleep for 90 days.
90 days, my ass.
Have you seen that, or have you seen that? I know you've been traveling.
It's not happening. It's
So
not happening.
yeah, so the cat has been traveling. He missed it. So Balaji bet $1 million that he thinks, and if you don't know who he is, he's the former CTO of Coinbase. So the bet is basically hyperinflation, but he's also saying that Bitcoin is going to hit $1 million. And the reason why Bitcoin hits $1 million is because of hyperinflation. So he basically believes that in order to get out of this massive economic crisis, the Fed is going to have to print like unprecedented levels of money, like unbelievable amounts compared to what we've seen before. So he thinks the US is going to enter hyperinflation and the dollar is going to be super devalued. A lot of people don't buy into that, but a lot of people also do buy into it.
I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with it as being a potential scenario on the table. That could certainly happen. I don't know that I'm 100% locked into that being the result, but yeah, that certainly can happen. I mean, there was a point of time where I thought hyperinflation was coming.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like Marky said, in June 2020, the US government printed 200 years worth of inflation in 30 days. Yeah, I mean, like what we saw during COVID was nuts. And just being on the ground and like buying stuff, and you see that it's like, you know, it's like you buy like a Chipotle burrito, it was like, you know, $9 and now it's like $16. Like it's crazy.
Indeed. Well, that also impacted the price of assets. Stocks ripped.
Good.
Stocks
Well,
ripped.
that's what I was talking to some people IRL about, is like what would happen if we do enter hyperinflation, or what would happen even if we do just see like the Fed printing money, like not necessarily like this crazy hyperinflation that Balaji is talking about, but just like what if we see some level of what he's talking about, not to the extreme, but you know, and you know what I was basically saying is like it just makes the rich get richer and the poor get poor. Like it's, if you have money in assets, you're just going to follow right along with inflation. It's not even going to really impact, or you know, it's not going to impact you really. If anything, it might actually just make you better off, which is what COVID did for a lot of people. But for people that don't own assets, which is just your average Joe, you know, they go to work, they get their paycheck, you know, they can afford to pay all their bills, you know, maybe they've got a house, they feed their family, but they don't have a whole lot left over. They're not like investing money into, you know, Bitcoin or, you know, stocks or bonds or whatever, or the S&P 500, like or even real estate. Like they don't really own anything. You know, they're just kind of getting by basically, which is like a very large percentage of the population. They're just getting destroyed by all this stuff. Meanwhile, you know, if you own assets, you're either the same or doing a lot better.
Man, if this doesn't really all go back to the Rich Dad Poor Dad book, pretty much what he said like 20 something years ago in terms of how you should set yourself up and invest.
Yeah.
Got to own those assets. Even if you're using other people's money, that's what makes real estate so awesome. Think about it. Every mortgage I have is a set amount of debt with a set payment, and the value, or I should say the cost of that debt actually goes down continuously because of inflation.
So explain that more for people. Like when you're buying a property, right? Like let's say you lock in like a 6% interest rate on a $300,000 property. How does, like, let's say that we enter what we're talking about. How are you benefiting from that?
Because once you lock in, let's say you lock in a 30-year mortgage, right? Obviously, you know, you have costs in terms of paying interest and all that stuff, but that cost of debt doesn't change. So you lock that in, let's just say your payments, whatever it is, $1,500 a month or something, let's just say, right? that payment does not ever, it's not changing. 10, 15 years from now, you're still paying $1,500 a month, but the value of $1,500 is completely different, right? Your value of each dollar essentially erodes every year with inflation. So, your purchasing power, gets diminished. So locking in fixed debt ends up being a win. And this makes sense when you are holding these mortgages for a rental property. This is the big piece that probably people are like, wait, I don't get how this is beneficial, because you're taking a rental income and using that money to pay the fixed debt, right? So now my $1,500 mortgage payment is never going to change, but what's going to happen over the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years? Rents are going to go up due to inflation, cost of living, right? So let's say initially you're collecting $2,000 in rent and you have that $1,500 payment. 10 years later, you're probably collecting $3,000 in rent and you still have a $1,500 payment. So that's why debt with real estate in regards to rental properties is powerful, because the cost of your debt's not going up. But the income that you're going to bring in benefits from inflation, as opposed to the debt, which doesn't get impacted. So
knowing that we're entering this type of cycle, would you be looking to buy more, basically get yourself into more real estate debt, which typically sounds like a bad thing, but like you're saying, it can be very positive if your cash flow is coming in?
Honestly, like, I've been a little hesitant. I just closed on a property Friday that I really kind of didn't want to buy because I didn't want to tie up the capital. But and especially with the interest rates being higher, it's never exciting when you're looking at like 8%. But the reality is, if we expect inflation, then it makes a ton of sense, because again, I'm locking in that debt at a set fixed cost, and rents are going to just keep going up if we continue to have inflation, and especially if the Fed prints more money. So